Good morning and welcome to episode 15 of the Digital Skills Talks. Today we'll be focusing on skills, collaborations, and innovation in European data spaces. The Digital Skill Talks is a series of online events that has been taking place since January 2024, and it covers many different topics, to name a few: AI, cybersecurity, data, virtual worlds, blockchain, quantum, and many other topics. But this is always with a strong focus on skills. So every month, the platform's teams invites the technology experts for a half-an-hour interview, and it's live streamed on the Arabaz Digital Skills EU Facebook in the morning, just to start the day on a good note. So it's a pleasure to join you. I'll be moderating the discussion. I'm Beatrice Eriksson. I'm a policy manager for the data economy, privacy, and public administration teams at Digital Europe. And today we have the pleasure of hosting two excellent speakers. The first is Federico Milani, the Deputy Head of Units for Data Policy and Innovation at DG CNECT at the European Commission. Federico has been closely involved in shaping the EU's data policies to advance Europe's vision for secure and trusted data sharing. And secondly, we're also joined by Gianfranco Cecconi, Executive Director of the Data Spaces Support Center and Chief Solutions Officer at the International Data Spaces Association. And Gianfranco brings hands-on experience in developing data spaces, frameworks, and fostering cross-sector collaboration. So thank you both for joining this morning, and it's a real pleasure to have two experts to discuss this issue. Maybe I'll start with a question to Federico. So data spaces are, of course, a key part of Europe's digital strategy. Could you tell us a little bit more maybe about what a data space involves and how it fits with the digital decade targets and the Union of Skills initiative? So just to provide us with a basis for this discussion.
Yeah, so we need to start really in the past, when in 2018 we published a communication saying, basically claiming that the importance of data is becoming more and more relevant for all type of activities and economic activities, so that we need to create in Europe a single market for exchanging data. And we call that market actually a common European data space where data can be shared. But in order to achieve that, then we need to take it on steps. And therefore, in the future, in the following communication, especially in the data strategy that we've been published in 2020, so a long time ago, if you think about it, we actually called for the creation of sectorial common European data spaces. What are they? They are a secure and trustworthy environment where data is shared in a peer-to-peer manner. There is a technical infrastructure that allows the transfer or the access to data, and a governance framework defining the data sharing and use of policies. Why we are claiming that this type of infrastructure is the one that will make sure that data is shared? Well, because in this infrastructure, the data holders can leverage their data by either monetizing it or trading it for extra services, for example. And they maintain control over who can access and use their data, as well as the purpose and condition under which it can be used. So we are trying to solve the issues that more and more industries, organizations, and also us as citizens have got when sharing the data. We share the data and we do not know where it's going, who's going to use it, for which purpose is going to use it. The data space that we are building should solve that problem. And by doing that, we hope and we are sure that there will be more sharing of the data, and therefore the exploitation of the data will be much bigger. We claim, for example, that almost 80% of the industrial data is not fully exploited. Now, why doing that? Well, with the advent of AI and ChatGPT and the large language model, everybody understands the importance of data. If you do not have data, you cannot train large language model, for example. You cannot deliver and produce new products and services based on the AI. So this is the main approach. And in the digital decade, actually, there is a major target that we want to achieve, which is that 75% of the companies in Europe will be able to use in an advanced form the data. So, or by using it through AI or by using data analytics in order to extract information and be more competitive in Europe. And this is mainly the activity. So skills in order to manage the data, to access the data, to identify which are the data it's needed, it's at the basis of many of activities that are related to digital skills. And the union of skills actually identify two ways on how to use data spaces. Well, the first way is that one that the data spaces will become, hopefully, the source of data for the organization that will be able to use this data and exploit this data. But there is also, I'm sure that everybody knows, the willingness to create a common European data spaces for skills. So we are building a data spaces that will allow the sharing of information about skills needs, jobs, educations courses that are available, so that by sharing this information, it will be easier for job seekers to identify a job, for employer to identify the right person to employ, and for people that want to upskills and to get trained, try to again identify which are the skills needed for the future, in this period where everything is changing with the advent of AI, and the skills needed are much more different. And I stop with that.
Thank you. That's a really great introduction to this discussion, and we understand as well that we need to increase the exploitation of data in Europe, including in an advanced form, and the common data spaces for skills could help with this. So, Gianfranco, back to you now. The Data Spaces Support Center is an EU-funded initiative, and it serves as a central hub to develop and deploy common European data spaces across strategic sectors. So could you tell us a bit more about what some of the crucial skills would be for these data spaces?
Yeah, of course, Beatrice. First of all, thank you for having Federico and me today. One thing that perhaps you need to clarify first is that despite the name, a data space is not strictly a technical thing. So when you hear the word, you should not think of a different type of data lake or a different type of database, right? A data space, I like to call them a social technical system. It's a combination of a lot of humans and a lot of machines as well. And because of that, it includes quite a wide portfolio of skills required to make it work across different aspects of it. We tend to call the components of a data space building blocks. And even if you think of building blocks, there are three large families of them: the technology ones, let's say the governance ones, and the more legal elements of it. And I can explain those one by one quickly, and in relation to that, understand why and which skills we need there. So the technical elements perhaps is the easiest one, right? So you need the machines to help us. And in data spaces, you will find a lot of automation, and you will find a lot of scaling that you will not have in more old-fashioned way of sharing data. Like I'm sending an Excel file to Federico, We don't do that anymore. Or at least we may do it occasionally when useful, but we are aiming here at automation and scaling, because we cannot rely anymore, let's say, on humans being reliable for those things, as we want to become more careful to privacy, confidentiality, and we want to scale. Humans are not great at scaling. So the skill you want there are, let's say, the same you would find in traditional data engineering, perhaps, but with a perspective of what the tech is called interoperability. So to what degree we can make the machine as autonomous as possible in dealing with negotiating, say, terms of the exchange, how to interpret the data. And there is so many, I would say dozens of different technology applied by this. And that is where data space is focused. It's not about being able to open an Excel file. It is about to be able to exchange that Excel file, to observe who is using it, to observe what happened to that Excel file in the past and everything. So all of those aspects of it related to access, transformation, transfer, and so on. That's the technology side. From a human side, we have the organization and the legal. So sometimes we simplify data spaces, thinking of them as marketplaces. It's not really exact. It's a bit more articulated than that. But as if you were organizing a market in the public square, you would probably have the same skills. You will need to go around as an entrepreneur and say, guys, come to my market. My market is relevant. My market is interesting for you because of these reasons. My market has something to offer you. And you, merchants, should come to my market because I have a good audience, a good traffic of people coming every Saturday morning, things like that. So there is a component of entrepreneurship and facilitation of many heterogeneous parties coming together in a place to collaborate. As Federico said before, it's not just about monetization. There are many other motivations for you to be part of this marketplace. You may want to co-create something together. So there's no exchange of money. You just need to trust the other party. It may be that you just want to go there to explore. You may want to go there to be more cost effective together with the others in the same sector. So there are many, many reasons. It's not just selling your data the old fashioned way. So all of these are organizational skills, I would call them. And the last bit, without scaring anyone, there are some legal skills involved as well, because we are dealing about a market of digital assets. It's not exactly like selling you a piece of cheese. It's a bit more complicated than that, right? So there's intellectual property, the privacy of the people described in the data, the confidentiality of the information of companies of the data being transferred. Sometimes you will find yourself in that market with your competitor working together, which may imply some elements of fair market behavior. All of these cannot be underestimated. It should not stop you from going to the market, but at the same time, you need to be aware. So the legal among the audience, guys, reskill if you study the old-fashioned way, because all of this stuff, you don't need to become necessarily expert across the full spectrum, but you need to understand what this is about. The Commission, I would say Europe, is one of the most advanced regions in terms of developing legislation to help framing all of these topics, but it's not a pre-cooked meal for you. You need to understand what you're doing, and the Commission is just creating the territory for you to be more comfortable. I would say this is a nice overall kind of view of the set of skills you would need.
No, indeed, and certainly the legal aspect doesn't scare me too much. And I think a lot of Brussels is very focused on the legal aspect, but it's from what I hear from you is also to be able to leverage technical skills and automation and to intelligently use those tools that we have at hand with an entrepreneurial, you said organizational, but also entrepreneurial attitude, let's say. Okay, so that's a really good start. And Federico, what do you think about this? Do you think maybe there are more skills that we can think of to fill the gaps in some of the gaps in data spaces, for example, to use data spaces for AI? How do you see this?
As Gianfranco was saying, basically, when a data space will be up and running and fully working, you will not need major skills to find the data and to download the data. That's an important aspect that everybody should know. But then you need to use the data. We are not creating data spaces just for sharing the data, but for using the data. And there, then you need the skills that are also attached to the work and the need that you need to that you want to do with the data. So you need to understand perfectly well for which purpose you want to use the data, in which type of formats, the interoperability of the various data sets that you are downloaded. But just to give you an example, once I was following a webinar where Jonathan Cohen, which is Vice President of Applied Research at NVIDIA and responsible for the development of LLM, was giving a presentation. And he said, in my team, the ratio between data engineers and AI architecture engineers is 2-to-1. So I need more resources on engineers that understand data, identify which is the data that is needed, clean the data, make sure that the data is ready for training the AI model that I want to train, that the engineers that knows well the architecture that they want to apply in order to get that access. And this is one thing that we all know. Basically, when you want to train a new language model, more than 60% of your resources is dedicated in order to identify the data, find the data, and see the possibility of those data, bias, for example. And then there are the legal aspects. So a data engineer needs to know also all the legal constraints, requirements, possibility that they have in order to use the data. If they want to use the data in a legal way and not be then sued by companies because they are not using the data. And already Gianfranco has mentioned the copyright. There is the GDPR, so all the privacy. And then therefore, the data engineer needs to know which are the tools that he can use in order to, for example, anonymize the data, to make sure that the data is processed in the correct way without thinking about cybersecurities and all those aspects that are needed in order to make sure that the data is not leaked, for example. So there are plenty of skills that someone wants to and needs, that someone that wants to work on data and work with the data that can be accessed by data spaces can develop. And I'm sure that that one will continue also in the future.
Thank you. And Gianfranco, so how do you see us resolving some of those skill gaps, and how would the Data Spaces Support Center help in this and address some of these issues around skills and identify these entrepreneurial, social, and also legal skills?
Well, Federico already made it clear how we need to create skills along an entire supply chain. I believe it's terminology that also the Commission uses in the AI continent action plan recently. So again, if you want to insist on the market analogy, even after we bought nice portobello mushrooms, they will not cook themselves, right? So we need to create all of those skills that take those mushrooms from the market down to your dish, and the line is quite long. Besides the skills that Federico described, what we can do as the Space Support Center, and we got a mandate from the Commission, was to create as much as possible materials that can be used to train all of those professionals along the line, all of those cooks, all of those truck drivers that brings the data to your plate. If you visit our website, I believe we will be able to give you the links in chat in a second, you will find a lot of materials that can be used to learn for yourselves or for others. If you are a trainer or a professor, why not relying on all the material that, thanks to the commission, we were able to develop over the last 3 years. You will find reference information, like literally we call them building blocks in one of our assets that we call the blueprint for data spaces. You will find references to which product services already today you may want to learn to use to deliver part of that supply chain, whether it is software by which you connect to a data space or software by which you catalog data sets available in a data space and so on. It's a very long list. So all of this material, the work we do for dissemination, the webinars we organize every month, and I also hope to see you there. All of this contributes to create awareness, if not to actually make you ready to go to market and apply for a job, to at least to understand what you're missing. And then you will complement the skills that perhaps you developed already in other fields in that direction. I myself, I'm over 50. I'm not spring chicken. There were not even many computers when I was to high school, right? This stuff built on top of traditional software and data engineering skills adapted to this kind of context that is a bit more aware of the lineage and the transformation of data through the whole process before it becomes a final product for the end user.
Thank you very much. And I believe that a couple of the links to the trainings and information that is really important for us today are now on the chat. So they've been shared and they're freely available. So that's a huge resource. And definitely I can see how from this discussion how skills you need to adapt. Technology evolves quickly and the data spaces will evolve quickly as well, hopefully, and you need skills to adapt as well to all these evolutions, I imagine. So I'd like to ask maybe a quick question just off the top of your heads. Now, what would be, from this discussion, keeping in mind that we're talking about the data spaces for skills ecosystem in particular, what's the biggest opportunity you see ahead and the biggest challenge? Maybe starting with Federico.
Well, the biggest opportunities, we mentioned it already, is if you are part of an organization, if you are already working in an organization, is to try to see if a data space in your sector is being built and trying to join in and trying to understand what is the benefit that you are going to get. For example, if it is in manufacturing, you might have the possibility of sharing data with your supply chain. So that one is one of the things and that you need to do, and in my opinion, as soon as possible, so just to be there and also be able to shape what a data space is. For skills, if you are people that want to develop new skills, I think both Gianfranco and myself have given you ideas on where we think the skills market is going and where you need to invest your time if you want to upgrade your skills. So it would be less programming, but it would be much more reasoning on where and how to use the data and which are the constraints on the data sets that you are using and what you can get out from the data that you are finding and how you can use the data. So there's a bit of legal aspect. There is a little bit of understanding really deeply the purpose for which you are going to use the data and the data that is available. And I think I will focus only on that. I don't know if Gianfranco, I'm sure he will complement this.
Oh yeah, thanks Federico. From I have a background in activism when I was a bit younger, and from my point of view, my best opportunity, the best opportunity I see for the future is to finally take down the barrier that is created by the lack of data literacy. I don't want to sound too abstract here, but a lot of us still have no idea of what even basic intellectual property means. I don't want us to become experts or legal people. We don't need to. That's why I use the word literacy, not data skills. I use the word data literacy. We need to understand that data is a strange kind of good. We all understand when we buy a mug how it works. If I own the mug, you don't own the mug. I cannot share the mug and keep the mug and so on. Data is completely different than that. I can own data and you can own data. I don't even like to use the term. It's like you can have the cake and eat it and share it. It's quite a different kind of economy. Very few of us are aware of that. And until we fix that, we will still be confused, or data topics will go over our head. And we joke usually in our strange circle, Federico and I, that the data is like infrastructure. So when it works, you don't see it at all. That is why AI is so famous and nobody talks about data spaces, because in reality, most people understand the final product, or most people like to play with ChatGPT without even realizing the massive volumes of data that had to go into it to make it that smart. We are not going anywhere if we don't strengthen we may call it the supply chain by which data is exploited, by which we take out of those drawers the 80% of commercial data that is not used, that Federico was referring to earlier. Already a couple of months ago, Ilya Sutskever, the ex-chief scientist in OpenAI, was saying that we ate all the data we could. But why? Because he probably, from that kind of an American perspective, he could not think that there is a lot more data that we are not sharing, simply because we are not yet comfortable or literate enough to understand that it is possible. And that is what we are trying to achieve in Europe.
Thanks a lot. So a general call to everyone following this discussion to take that step if you're interested to gain that data literacy and not be afraid to go out there and leverage this technical progress that we've had in the past few years. So well, I think this call is coming to an end, sadly, because I think it's a really interesting discussion and I hope we can continue it. Thank you both for sharing your expertise, and you will find the recording. So to all those listening, you'll find the recording today on the YouTube channel of the European Commission Digital EU. If you've enjoyed the session, you're also invited to join the DSJP community, whose platform offers training and opportunities for upskilling besides on top of these series to go into a little bit more depth. You can get more information on the website or subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. So voila, I'm wishing you a good day in Brussels. It's relatively sunny and I hope you all have a great day ahead of you. Thank you. Goodbye.